second to no one. I believe that I'm someone. You must be out of your head to say the things you said. I'm second to no one. Well, now you're looking for the fire in your heart's desire. I'll find a better way. Well, I know I can see the thoughts in my head will open the doors to reality. And now you're searching for a dream any way that you know. I'll find a given time. There's a place you can go. Just listen to your mind and everything's gonna be fine. I'm second to no one. I believe that I'm someone. You must be out of your head to say the things you said. I'm second to no one.
Welcome to No Holds Barred on SRB Radio with me, the Gabby Cabby, and former Notts County, Birmingham City, Sheffield United, Watford, Walsall and Scotland international winger, Paul Devlin. How you doing, Dev? Welcome to your show.
All right, Gabs, yeah, good to be back.
First thing that we always do, and it's top priority on this show, is an Annie update. So how's the little
Yeah, she wasn't too well last week, but she's okay this week. Started back school now, which obviously is a big thing. I think, as most parents, they were all driving us mad, running around the house for 6 weeks. So, yeah, just ticking along, mate. The two events that we've got going for in October have gone extremely well. You know, the Just Giving page been fantastic. You know, the support that we've received from everyone's been, you know, quite humbling, to be honest.
How can people connect? How can people go to your Just Giving page? And also a little bit of backtracking, because I know we do it on every show, but just to tell people that don't know, what is Annie's problem?
Yeah, she's got Addison's disease, which is basically her adrenal glands have been destroyed. Now, your adrenal glands make cortisol and aldosterone, which... Cortisol is your stress hormone, and the other one regulates the salt in your body. Yeah. So any sort of stress, fatigue, you know, that could be being tired after a long journey, infection, anything like that is potentially life-threatening for her. You know, it's lifelong, it's life-threatening. Very rare disease. There's only 8,500 people in the UK got it, and a majority of those are adults. So for a young girl to get it is, you know, quite literally a million to one shot, probably even more. So good days and bad days with it, but you know, we plod along.
And how is she coping with it?
Yeah, it's difficult for her. She tries to be very brave and put a brave face on it at times. You know, there's nothing worse than seeing her in pain, knowing that she's battling through it, and you know, knowing that she knows that potentially, well, it's a lifelong condition. We just hope that the advances in medical science down the years, we can make things easier for her.
And then I'm guessing with something like that disease, there's not enough money that's going in to finding out what the problem is, rather than with other horrible diseases like cancer and like strokes and like heart disease.
Well, we were actually told that by one of the specialists at Heartlands Hospital, that the problem with Addison's is nobody's going to get rich by curing it, because there's that few people got it, which isn't what you want to hear as a parent of a kid that's got this terrible condition. But you never know what's around the corner with medical science. I mean, you know, 10, 20 years ago, you know, the strides that have been made even since then in different fields. You know, you have to be hopeful and stay positive.
Well, I was watching a programme briefly last night. In 1978, we did have a smallpox outbreak in Birmingham, and that was a horrible disease, and that is pretty much eradicated. So let's hope that the medical geniuses, our scientists, can eradicate Addison's like every other horrible disease that we have. So your events that you're putting on, let's talk about them. First one's at the Tally-Ho, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they're both at Tally-Ho. We've got a Tally-Ho on the 12th, which, I mean, to be fair, that was sold out within a couple of weeks, where we're doing a Q&A with a few former players. We've got an auction. People have donated some lovely prizes. We've got some Anthony Joshua signed shorts. We've got Rory McIlroy signed golf flags. Corporate days at Manchester United, Villa, Blues, loads of stuff, different casino things. So we're going to have a Q&A, a bit of food, a little bit of an auction, and then we've got a John Holt / Bob Marley tribute act on the evening. So that'll be good. And then on the 21st, we're doing the
19th.
We're doing a charity match, which is Blues All Stars against Wolves All-Stars, and Paul Robinson's going to make his debut for the old boys. Now he's an old fart and he's retired. Tatey's going to play as well, and I've also been roped into doing the Birmingham run with Tatey again. When he rang me up, he says, "Do you fancy doing the fun run?" Thinking it would be a couple of miles. I said, "Yeah," and then I didn't know till I got there it was a half marathon. So me and Tatey are going to be doing the half marathon. I think the timing's not great for me with that, because Annie's due's on the 12th, so that'll be a late night for me, stroke early morning. Then I've got to run the half marathon on the 14th, so I might have to cut my boozing short on the Friday night.
Could be worse. It could be the 13th, Dev.
Well, it could be the 13th. But I think it'd be better then, because I'd still be half drunk from the night before, and I'd just plod my way around. So yeah, it's going to be a heavy week. And all joking apart, for Tatey to do that, I know how much Tatey struggles with his knee, and he knows he's going to be in a lot of distress for a few days after that with his knee. So for him to be prepared to put his body through that for me and Annie, and Paul Robinson's doing it as well, and he's trying to get a bit of help with a sponsor for Annie's Just Giving page. It's been brilliant. Frankie Gavin showed a bit of interest in doing it as well. So all go, mate.
So can other people join you still, or is all the entrance, is it closed?
No, I think that there is a link. I haven't got the link on me at the moment. There is a link where you can sign up and do the run. Okay. It's open to everyone, and you just go on the Great Birmingham Run, Simply Health Birmingham Run, and there'll be a link there where you can sign up, pay, and get your number through. And
it'll also be on your Facebook page, all the links as well as our SRB Facebook page. We'll get all the links on there.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy to connect and to get hold of and to join you. Yep. Also this afternoon, lots of little kids are going to be joining you at the Grace Academy at Chelmsford, because you are a football coach as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we start back this week. Was in Erdington last night, and we're at Grace Academy Chelmsford tonight with our, the weekly coaching courses that I put on. So September's always a good one, because you get the new kids have started school, the new 4-year-olds. So it's always a bit lively in September.
And enjoyable as well.
Great, yeah. You're seeing little kids come through for a bit of coaching. It's the first time they've ever been to anything like it, and I've been lucky down the years. I've had kids that have been from 4 to 14, so we've had them for 10 years, and actually gone on and done a little bit of work for me as well, so it's brilliant.
Now, we're going to touch upon our first subject, because we've got lots to get through today. Gareth Southgate come out recently and said, we haven't produced a world-class, I'm guessing, midfield player over the last 50 years. Now, you're coaching. You've been a professional player within those 50 years as well. Is he right or is he wrong? If he's right, what's going wrong?
I think the word, or the two words I should say, world class, are bandied around a little bit too freely at times. But did he not mention Gaza? Did he not say Gaza?
He did say Gascoigne was the only one.
Yeah, you'd have to say Gaza in his pomp. If he is just on about midfielders, I think Brian Robson in his heyday was a hell of a player. Yeah. Paul Scholes in the day, hell of a player. The one we talked about off air earlier on, Matt Letizia, probably as gifted a player, with probably the exception of Gascoigne, that I can remember, English player.
Did you ever play against Matt?
I probably did down the years, but I can't remember. I played against most down the years, but it's it's obviously difficult to remember every game. So I wouldn't agree that, although I do believe that world class is bandied around far too easily at times. Even different positions. I think you'd say Peter Shilton was a world class goalie. I think Shearer in his pomp, you'd have to say was world class. So I see where he's coming from. Don't 100% agree. Glenn Hoddle, we spoke about him as well. So I see where he's coming from with the statement, but I'd have to disagree slightly that he was the only one.
And also, this is the biggest problem that England face, that midfield, that engine room. In the 70s, three also that I would put in as world class, that I would have had as my midfield trio, would have been Alan Ball, Alan Hudson and Tony Curry. And I think with them three, they would have been as good as any three that's ever played the game of football. And I think that when you look at England now, with Henderson pretty much in that holding role, and then he played Lingard and Dele Alli, he was asking two of those three players to do a job that's pretty much alien to them. Then they don't come alive in that middle third. They come alive in that final third. That's what they're, I wouldn't say you're trained to, because as a player it just comes naturally, don't you? But that's where they come alive in the final third, not the middle third.
I think that's all to do with the way our game's been over the last 20 years, which has been fast and furious, get the ball forward quickly and support your forward man. So you got Ali and Lingard who are used to chasing forward, getting scraps off different players or getting on the end of through balls. Whereas you look abroad, Spain, perfect example. You know, Spain are in a little bit of transition period themselves now. But their game over the last 20, 30 years has all been about playing through the midfield. And you look, I didn't see the England-Spain game, and I read a couple of reports.
It wasn't good.
Just saying, even now, with probably not as strong a Spain team as there's been in the last 10 years, still played that game a lot better than England. They're used to having the ball in tight areas, keeping possession, not just going bang, get it long. And I think that's the problem. And it starts from academy level and you know, youth level, that we still sort of focus a little bit on this not direct game, but it's a lot more hustle and bustle than it is, and physicality than it is in other countries. You look at you look at Iniesta and Xavi and that when they were playing, they'd have the ball if there was 3 players around them, because the player giving it them has got to be confident that they can keep it, and they've got to be confident to have it. Now, I've seen down the years players, no, I can't give it to you, there's a man on. You can give the ball to someone if there's a man. If I'm standing here and I've got a man there, as long as you pass it my side, I can have it. But I don't think we've really drilled that into midfielders in the last 20, 30 years, and I think that's why we don't produce the Xavis, the Iniestas, the people like that.
And another reason I think that we don't produce players like that is because a lot of these academies want big, fit, athletic boys, and that's absolutely ridiculous. We're trying to play football, not athletics.
Well, that's it. You look at some of the best midfield players that you've just mentioned, Alan Ball and even Brian Robson, people like that. They weren't 6'2". You know, they probably couldn't do the 100 metres in 11 seconds. But I still, you know, and people will tell you different, people in academies and different people, oh, we don't look for that anymore. It's an out-and-out lie. They do. They still want big, strong, quick players. So
in all the time that we've had our youth academies, at you know, all the football clubs, and I did note that this week, I think Huddersfield have said that they're going to scrap their youth academy.
Yeah. I'm amazed more clubs don't do it, to be honest. I'm amazed more clubs don't do it, because Huddersfield... you know, and a lot of clubs to a certain extent, if they've got a wonder kid coming through, one of the big teams will take him anyway. And
if nothing, Dev, is that what happens?
Well, there might be a fee, but you know, at the end of the day, if they go on to be a Rooney or a Dele Alli or someone like, you could be losing out 30, 40, 50, 60 million pounds, whatever. Managers, especially at the Premier League, don't have time to throw a young kid in and say, oh, we'll give them a year or two to bed in. They're going to buy a ready-made player already. So why do the academy? Why do the academy? So,
I mean, the way I see it is where you're doing your coaching, and I used to coach and manage at Marston Green, which was a club. You don't get the team, do you? You just coach the kids.
Just weekly coaching sessions, yeah.
So you had that. You've still got the set up with what I used to do in the Central Warwicks. I still do now. You've got your schools football as well. So you then identify players and move them up to like the football clubs, the Blues and the Villa, etc. In this area in particular, because I think it's ridiculous, probably up to the age of 14, 15, to expect kids to travel distances. Just go to what I would suggest. Bear me up on this. If I got a kid that was showing promise, go to Blues, go to Villa, go to Walsall, go to Albion, go to all these different places, find out where you enjoy playing, enjoy the game, play with a smile on the face and improve and get some great coaching. That's what I would suggest. Then when you start getting up to like kind of 13, 14, when it starts to get a little bit serious, then get yourself into the academy and then you're going to move up through the age groups to the youth, then in old money to the reserve team and then to the first team. But there's no progression now. There's no reserve team football, is there? You're playing against your same age groups, and you don't learn the trade like you did when you was coming into the game.
Well, the reserve league used to be when I first turned pro, it was a Wednesday evening league, and it was a really strong league because you'd be playing against players that were coming back from injury or had been out of the team. So you was playing with men. You know, that was where you learned as a young player. That's where you learnt your trade. You know, you got advice off the older pros. You watched the older pros. You were coming up against people that had been around the block. When you're 18 and you're playing against other people the same age group or 20, I don't think you learn as much because they haven't been around the block the way the older pros have. So to me, the death of reserve football was a massive blow for that. I think we're taking the kids in academies far too young, instead of letting them go and enjoying the playing for the school, playing for the Sundays. And I just think we've put that much onus on this academy thing now that you're getting kids that are getting released 12, 13, 14, 15, and they think it's the end of the world. You know, so I think there's quite a few factors, and you know, there's a few avenues that you can look at with kids' progression in football. But the first thing is they've got to be enjoying it, wherever they're playing at whatever standard. If they're enjoying it, you've got a chance that they're going to keep playing.
So, and you need that natural progression and that cycle, and keep producing players. But again, we haven't produced them. The system is broken. The system needs to be fixed, but it isn't going to, is it?
Well, my progression was, and you know, it was simple really. I was playing Sunday football, then went into lower level non-league football. Climbed the pyramid lower until I got to the conference, and then went pro, and that was quite a clear pathway. That everyone played Sundays, and if you were any good, you'd play on a Saturday, and you'd get a few quid for playing on the Saturday, and any better from there. Obviously, you played at a better standard, earned more money, and maybe had the chance of going pro. But you know, Sunday football when I played, it was the Festival League, was a brilliant standard. You know, the standard's not there now. I don't know if there's, you know, still many teams going in it, but that was really good. And I just think there's a general lack of, I wouldn't say lack of players, but there's not as many players playing now, or it doesn't appear to be to me, at that sort of age group and that level, to when I would go back 20, 30 years ago when I was playing.
But again, statistics would probably back up the counter argument that there are, and you go, well, how does it happen? How can we just keep playing and not producing when nations like, I mean, Italy aren't going through a very good patch, but certainly Spain have produced and produced and produced it. So they're obviously doing something wrong. I think as well,
what I will say about nations like Spain and that, you know, and it's an old argument here. Facilities-wise, in the winter, we struggle because most kids' teams are still playing on grass pitches. I still play for the over 35 team, and I know we had 6 or 7 games called off last year. So the actual training side of it, when it's the depth of winter here, and you're on a muddy pitch, some can't even get marked out. So I don't think that helps. I think we've got to have loads more 4G pitches introduced where people have got access to them. Now I know from the Sunday football I still play, we pay about £1,200 for a grass pitch, and the nearest AstroTurf we get, we're looking at minimum £3,000. So it's not accessible to everyone, and that's because we haven't got enough of the facilities. I would hazard a guess that if you go to Germany, France, Spain, they've got per head of, you know, population, they've got far more 4G pitches than we have.
So what are the FA doing apart from not a great deal? Because they're the custodians of the game, aren't they? They should be making sure that these pitches are available and provided for young uns to learn the trade, supply the trade and get better and improve. But again, like I've said, English football, we need a massive debate, because the way I see it, it's broken.
Well, I mean, you'll get them coming out when you're doing some opening, it's a bit of lip service. I will put in this, but if you look at the money that's awash in the game, the FA, the PFA, the Premier League,
it's crazy.
How it can't be filtered down better to grassroots level, even with regards what I do or people that run teams. Let's access a little bit of funding, so it takes the pressure of paying for the pitch off us. Little things like, I'd love to be able to go to Chelmsford, Wood, Erdington, Roosley and say, right, I've got 60 places here for kids, nobody's got to pay because I've got funding. But it doesn't, whatever they say, it doesn't get down to the bottom level, the grassroots level.
Do you do one-to-one work with players as well, Dev? Do you think that's an option and an avenue for former players? I mean, I work a lot with Alan Hudson. I'm trying to get Uddy back into the game. The way I see it, and the way that I've touched upon it with you many times, I can't believe that you've got this game of football and former players have got great experience, absolutely brilliant at playing football, probably academically not very good at other things, but football they're brilliant. They finish the game of football and they're just disregarding and put on a scrap heap, where we should be tapping into the skill, the expertise and the experience of them players, and even on a one-to-one level with a kid, could go around and do a bit of coaching on a one-to-one and be a mentor of type at a professional club or an amateur club, and I just think it's a massive avenue that's untapped and should be utilised.
No, I agree with you. You know, we've spoke about this in the past. The one thing, you know, it's all about the badges and the qualifications if you want to work at it at pro level. But you know, to me, you know, you've got a kid coaching, you've got kids coaching kids. that have never played at the level that them kids want to get to. Now I'm not knocking them because they've took the time to get the badges and they're in the system, so I'm not knocking them. But I think also you can marry into that the experience that ex-pros have got to offer who maybe haven't got any badges. So there's got to be a way you can work it both in, because it is, and I've said it before, it's the only industry that I think you've got such a huge pool of untapped experience and talent that these kids could be tapped into that we don't use because he hasn't done this course or he hasn't done that course.
So again, going back to when I used to coach and manage, they come up to me and they say, Paul, ask my advice about things, and I could pass on what I knew from what I did. But it's a completely different ball game, and I didn't take my badges as it happened, but I could have. Yeah. But again, I would have only have got it from books. Yeah. Now, you go to someone like Alan Hudson and say, what was it like playing in like the European Cup Winners' Cup final? Yeah. When you was like 19, and what was it like when you played against West Germany, you world champions, you made your debut? What was it like when you was in the dressing room at at Chelsea at 13 when Doherty took you under? These are things that surely should be passed on, and I find it ridiculous that they're not.
Well, the one thing that you can never pass on is experiences. Exactly. You can take 100 penalties every day in training and say, no, you need to do it. The game situation is completely different. Yeah. You might be on a really bad run of form and you might be thinking, I don't know where the next goal is going to come from, or worried about. Speak to someone who's been through it. Well, listen, this is what I did and it changed around for me a little bit. They're the things that you can read a million articles on them, but until you've actually been through them, you can't impart your knowledge on someone because you haven't done it. And I don't care what anyone says. If there's a situation you're trying to give advice and coach on, if you haven't been in that situation, how much credibility can you have advising someone on it?
I don't think you can. You can only go to the former pro, get that advice, get that experience, because although you can read it in a book, you've not played it, you've not lived it.
It'd be nice to think that'd be a way to marry the two.
I agree.
And so you've got the coaches that are doing it, that have took the time to get the badge, but they're also even advice for the coaches, not just the players. You could get an ex-pro advising the coach and say, listen, this is what you need to be saying to him. I would say do this or do that. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be, players advising players. They can, they can help the coaches a hell of a lot as well, because we've all played for different managers down, and I think, when I was playing really well under him, this is what he used to do with me, or this is what he used to tell me. So I think it can work both ways.
And I think it should work both ways. But I don't know what it is about football. There seems to be a reticence that it doesn't want to work both ways. So just going back to England briefly, we have got some young players, some young talent. I think James Maddison is one of them. I think Mason Mount, who's at Derby on loan at Chelsea. You got the boy at Bournemouth, Lewis Cook, and you've got a player that I get dog's abuse because I think he's a great player, and that's Jack Grealish at Villa. And if you're a Blues fan, what you don't want to be doing is talking up Villa, and conversely the other way around. But I just look at football, Dev, now as a 54-year-old bloke. I like to watch players, I like to look at their artistry and their skill, and I think in Grealish there is a player, and I would have him and them younger players in that England setup, because I think they're far greater than what we've currently got. Because I think if all we've got is Dyer coming on, I think we are in dire straits.
Well, I agree. I think Grealish is a very talented young player. Brucey said he's probably the best young player he's ever worked with, hasn't he? And that's a massive statement coming from Brucey. I think he needs to add more goals to his game. Yeah. That's probably the criticism I'd have of him. For somebody that talented, he needs to be hitting double figures every season. But the problem is with not so much Grealish in this argument, and this is where people raving about the youth levels with England and the 17s have won this, the nod. Are any of them going to break into top 6 clubs and go on and forge a career there? No. And then if not, then they're going to go to a Swansea, a Leicester, a Huddersfield. Are you going to be picking your England team from sort of second and third tier clubs? Which is no disrespect to those clubs. It's just the way it is. So it's an awkward one.
You look at that lad Solanke, Gareth Southgate's already come out and said he's worried about him. He's playing him for he's playing the 21s, but he's still in playing for Liverpool. And that progression again from the grassroots through to youth, through to reserve, through to first team, through to international football, the foundations aren't set there. And I think we need to change the rules, and I think we need to have at least 4 or 5 homegrown, and I don't mean get them through the back door and give them passports from other nations, but homegrown, talented players, you must field at least 4 or 5 in any game that you play in this country.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you, but I also think as well, and how many times have we seen this down the years, that players have been picked who aren't even playing? You know, I think it's a massive thing. If the team is truly picked on form, then you have to do that.
Yep.
You can't say, well, he's been out for 6, but we'll get him back in the squad. But how many times, Gab, can you really remember that a team's been picked on form?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
The England national team never has been.
It's picked on reputations.
It has.
It's picked on what club you play for.
Yeah, it does.
You know, so your form and the actual how much you're playing is almost secondary. But I think we've got to get out of that habit as well.
I think if you're good enough, you're young enough, and conversely, you're old enough. And my next debate would be England arresting Harry Kane.
Yeah.
I think they're going with Rashford and Welbeck tonight against Switzerland. Why don't they start with Troy Deeney?
Well, I was not shocked, but I heard Southgate's interview the other day, and he was quite not condescending, but I didn't like the way he spoke about Troy. He was on about Troy, and he was on about Callum Wilson. Yeah. And he was saying, obviously, I've had Wilson, works at me younger, blah blah blah. But he was quite dismissive of Troy. He just said, well, I think, you know, Watford play a certain way, and I'm a big fan of Troy. He said, but the way he plays is not the way we want to play. Well, maybe he's a different option then. Maybe if the way you play isn't working, you have Troy on the bench, or you give him a little go to try and do a plan B. To me, reading between the lines, it was, well, Troy's a big old-fashioned centre forward, and I'm not interested. No matter how well he's doing at Watford, no matter how many goals he scored, he won't be in my setup because he doesn't play the way I want to play.
I think you always need a plan B. The way I see Troy play is he's the absolute fulcrum of Watford. He's the captain of Watford. Even against good teams, people would suggest the top 4, top 6 team, Arsenal. He ruffles feathers, he sticks his elbows in, and he upsets defenders. I would suggest now, if you asked any Premier League centre half what centre forward they most dislike playing against, I bet you most of them would say Troy Deeney.
It would be, and I think over not just this season, over the last year or two, he's warranted a call up. But unfortunately, I'm a massive fan of Troy, great kid. You know, I don't think he'll ever get it now.
No, I don't.
Especially listening to the way Southgate spoke. Which is unfortunate because without a shadow of a doubt he's warranted a call up the last few years.
Again, I can understand what he's saying is if he wants younger players. If that's his remit, I want younger players. And he's saying Troy's 30 plus now.
But you just said if you're old enough, young enough.
That's what I'm saying. But that's
it should be formed.
My opinion is I don't care how old you are. Yes, I want the future. Yes, I want to blood young players. But if I've got players that are older and have got experience, they are in that team as well.
Well, look at Italy. Look, I think Pirlo played till 36, 37. Iniesta for Spain. Yeah. They just pick you on form.
Exactly.
They're not worried that, we want an average. It's great. Oh, yeah, the average age of the England team was under 25. Well, who cares? Yeah. Doesn't matter how young your average age is, it's how well you're doing. And it can be masked the fact that England got to the semi-finals of the World Cup, and even Southgate said, we got to the last 4, but we're not a top 4 team. I think anyone with an ounce of rationale will realise that. But yeah, I mean, it's a quandary because I just think Troy would be perfect. I mean, how many years was Peter Crouch in the squad? Yeah. And he was a different option. Yeah. Now I just think Troy warrants a go, being that different option. I'm not saying get him in and he's got to start, but he definitely warrants a call up, and has done for a year or two.
But again, like you've said, if plan A isn't working, you do need a plan B and possibly a C and a D.
Definitely.
You need to mix it up. Going back to where I ran about Hotter earlier. With players, you need to mix your game up, don't you? If you are, and you're right, Otter is, big game on Friday night, Birmingham City versus West Bromwich Albion. If you are so predictable as a player, you're quite easy to play against, aren't you? Yeah. Well,
I think, in my opinion, he's been a bit of a disappointment since he come. And the price tag and all that isn't his fault, so I don't hold that against him. But he is very predictable. I think he's got to mix his game up a bit more. Maybe he might be trying a little bit too hard or whatever, but You know, he's very, very left-sided, as we see. He's not particularly physical or aggressive. You know, he can run well with the ball, but he's not got the blistering pace of a Vassal, you know, that sort of speed. So I think he's got to mix the game up a little bit more, and it will probably help him as well. You know, instead of trying to run with it all the time, lay it off quickly, go for a little 1-2, because at the minute he seems to be getting it, running, losing the ball, and I just think he's obviously got ability. You can tell the kid's got ability. He wouldn't be a professional footballer if he never had ability. But I just think he's got to mix his game up. And there's got to be more end product with regards goals scored or goals created.
Do you think as well, though, with certain players, he isn't a player that's going to drop deep and get the ball. No. He wants the ball, for me, in the final third, round the box. I think he's got good feet, especially the left. Okay, fair enough, the right one pretty much is for standing on, but he's got good balance, good technique. I like the kid. But again, when you look at England, the way that England play, they haven't got those midfield players that as soon as the defender, if you're playing a 3 at the back or a 4 at the back, I think you're best playing 2 at the back with your full backs and having 3 midfield personally, and then 3 up front. That's the way I'd set the team up. But if you've only got them players in midfield, that when the defender is looking and all he can see is the number on your back, he knows he's got no one to pass to. So he's then got to either play to the left back or to the right back, and then you go back to your goalkeeper, and then guess what happens? Scotland do this. They whack it forward. Now, if you've got a midfield player that will drop deep, want it side on, shovel the ball out, and just keep recycling the ball, and then following the ball and pass and move, all of a sudden you're playing football, and players like Hotter come alive then, because they're part of a triangle. I just think it's totally disjointed, and because of the way that Birmingham play, I don't think they get the benefit out of it.
I mean, I know somebody that knows Dean Smith, and Dean Smith said, without a shadow of a doubt, he's a right winger.
That surprised me.
Now, he knows him as well as anyone, so I was really surprised to hear that. But also as well, he's came into a team that's struggled. You know, if he's probably one of those players, if you were to stick him in the Wolves team of last season, he'd probably get 15 goals and everyone would be raving about him. His style of play isn't
conducive to us,
to how we play at the moment, and that's not his fault. He's came in, you know, when we're in a difficult period, and you know, I've got no doubt he's trying his best, but I just think he's got to change his game up a little bit more to become more of an influence.
Just touching back on England slightly, Sky TV, the game was only on Sky TV. I think that's absolutely wrong.
It is, you know, not everyone's got Sky, contrary to what Sky believes. So I was surprised to see that, and it's not a good omen, is it, moving forward?
No, and England's game tonight, for 25 seconds, they're going to go from colour to black and white, because it's 25-year anniversary of the Kick It Out racist campaign.
Yeah, brilliant. You know, I remember when it first came out, I didn't realise it was that long, to be honest.
25 years.
But 25 years, so that'll be good. People will be banging the tellies, wouldn't they, all over the UK, I reckon the telly's knackered.
They'll be phoning up Sky and Virgin Media, wouldn't they?
What's up with my programme? It's gone black and white.
I'm guessing it's going to be in the 25th minute.
Yeah.
It would be, you know, fitting if they did. And talking about the Kick It Out campaign, just before we go into the local derby, your mate Jono's doing really well, isn't he, in Africa?
Yeah, I think he had his first game of that. I think they drew with Bahamas or Barbados. Yeah, he's managing Guyana in the Caribbean. So yeah, he's loving it. He's out there, you know, he's got his foot on the ladder. You know, and I dare say if he does well in in a year or two out there, he might have a chance of getting a job back here. But Jono's top man. And I wish him all the success.
But again, you're right, Jono. He is a top man. He's got the longest fingers in British football.
Yeah. Gary Mills will tell you that. But yeah, and another one. You know, he is an ex-pro that has got every coaching badge, every qualification, and I mean everyone to the top level, and has still found it nigh on impossible to get his foot on the coaching ladder in this country.
And he's a great lad as well.
Brilliant bloke.
He's given loads of time to me in the past, as you have. Yeah. Lots of time with former players. That they don't. Yeah. But you guys do. And it just amazes me that someone like Jono, and he's got a great personality. Yeah. Everyone loves Jono. Yeah. Apart from the people that run the damn game. Why has he got to go out there in the Caribbean, prove his worth, and then come back? I find it laughable.
Well, I mean, I think that's a question that Jono doesn't know the answer to. No. We don't know the answer to. You know, you got a bloke there that's played in excess of 600 games, played internationally for Jamaica, 20-year playing career at all levels. and has got every qualification that it is possible to get.
Yeah.
And, you know, why is he not coaching in this country or managing in this country? Why has he had to go to Guyana to do it? It's a question I'd like to know the answer to.
I wouldn't. I think the FA need to answer an awful lot of questions. However, it just seems as though the people that ask the questions don't ask the right questions, because I think they're all on that kind of gravy train and nobody wants to rock that boat.
No.
I would tip the fucker over if it was me, quite frankly, but there you go. Hopefully Birmingham City are going to tip Albion's boat over Friday night. How do you see the local derby?
I think it's a good game for them, because it was this probably the worst they've played was QPR the other Saturday. You know, I was saying to you off air, I think we should be 8 points better off than we are. You know, should have beat Norwich, should have beat Forest, should have beat Swansea, and I think we should have beat Bolton as well. So games there that we should have got more out of when we've played well, but we just haven't turned them into wins. We played poor against QPR. Well, the poorest I've seen us play this season. Probably should have lost the game. But I think you're going back into a Friday night game under the lights, which I always loved at St Andrews, local derby on Sky. You know, you should be feeling 10 foot tall going into that, and it's a bit of a free hit, because everyone will be making Albion heavy favourites to win the game. So it's the type of game as a player I love playing in, and you miss not playing them. So I think it's a good game for them.
What's the difference between playing nights under the floodlights or playing at 3 o'clock on an afternoon, or when we play the Villa? Because this is what makes me laugh. We can play the Albion, it's a local derby, and it's 7:45, right, and it's getting dark. So we can play that game. We probably wouldn't be able to play Wolves or Villa on that time. We would have to play them on a Sunday at noon kick-off. Yeah. How's that happen?
I mean, I don't know how it's thought out. Obviously, there's police issues and that, I'm thinking, but I always preferred night games. Yeah. And it's strange, because physically I always felt better of a night game. And just the lights and the atmosphere, just, obviously you play a lot less night games than you do Saturday games. So whether it's the novelty value of it as well. But, a night game at St Andrews, I remember my second game, Wolves, and it was 28,000 there, and 2-0, and I scored both goals. It was always stuck out in my mind, the Villa, the night game, the 3-0 game, the incoming game. So I personally, and I think if you speak to a lot of pros, it's strange that a lot of them preferred night games.
They always say that, don't they? Liverpool European Cup nights under floodlights were special.
Well, I played in the semi-final of the League Cup in whatever guise it was years ago for Watford, home and away against Liverpool, and that was at Anfield on a Monday or a Tuesday night, and it was unbelievable. I can't put my finger on what it is. It's just there's something about the lights and with it being dark, I think. Yeah,
but then on a Sunday at 12 at midday, noon, how flat is that?
It can be because it isn't a time that you associate really with you. You do obviously now the last few years, but when I was playing, it was a bit of an alien time to play. So your body gets into a rhythm, and your body gets to know, because you're training all week, building yourself up for a Saturday or a Tuesday night. So your body tends to, get into that rhythm. Sunday, you're chilling out, you're doing hardly anything of a Sunday, so you got to, sort of really get your motor started, if you like. But I wasn't keen on a midday Sunday kick-off.
So you could argue that the police that seem to run the game, I don't know why, because I always thought it was the Football Association and the Football League that run football, but if the police are dictating to the Football League, as we're in next, and we're not in the Premier League, that Birmingham City have to play Aston Villa noon at Villa Park or at St Andrews, they're actually cheating football fans, because they're not getting the best of the players, because the players aren't in the mood as though they would be if they was playing 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the players not being up for it. You would be up for it, but just
not as much.
Just naturally, your body gets into a rhythm of when it knows it's due to play. So I think subconsciously that you do have that issue, but at the end of the day, the police are going to say, especially if it's a Villa game, and they're going to say, well, we can't have this for the pubs or for whatever. So I don't think you're ever going to change that. But years ago, pre-Sky, it didn't seem to be a problem, did it?
Well, I mean, we certainly had. We've had trouble since the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, haven't we? Really,
I think at games, not just derby games, at games you're going to get trouble. I don't see how you ever stop that.
No, I don't.
You know, but the police will say what they're doing is trying to limit that trouble or cut it out altogether. So it's a difficult one, and like you say, I think that they have the power with it now, don't they? When games are going to be played,
I think sadly they do. How do you see the game going?
I think it'll be good for Blues because I think Albion are going to come and try and win the game.
Yeah.
Which I think Blues at the moment.
Would you take the draw?
No, I wouldn't take
Okay.
a draw against anyone at St
Yeah.
Andrews. I think we've got to make St Andrews a fortress, and I think on our day, our first 11 can beat anyone
Yeah.
there. You know, Swansea was the most one-sided 0-0 the last Friday night game we had, and they're one of the teams tipped to go up.
Yeah.
So we can batter them without getting a goal. You know, we can do the same to the Albion. But I think where it'll benefit Blues, Albion, whereas QPR sat in, Albion will come to try and win the game, which will leave gaps going forward for Hatter, for Magoma, for people like that. We have looked quite bright on the counter-attack at some stages this season. So with Albion pushing to win the game rather than coming like QPR did, we'll sit deep, well over the moon with a 0-0. I think that could be beneficial to us. The flip side of that is we've got to be on our mettle defensively because they're going to come and have a right go.
And how does that, as a player, like an attacking player that you were during your career? I mean, you play games at St Andrews where teams would defend, they would drop, they would put men behind the ball. How much more difficult is it when they come with that attitude to break them down rather than when they're coming at you and then you get the ball and then you need them players to move that ball quickly to get it into that final third.
It does make it difficult, and that's the game plan of a lot of teams. They come just to shut up shop, and all it does is shut the space out. So what you tend to do naturally find yourself drifting deeper and deeper and deeper to get the ball, and you end up having it in positions where you're not going to hurt the opposition. Whereas if a team's coming to have a go at you, their fullback might be caught 50 yards up the pitch and somebody could hit you with a diag. So it was always, and it makes it an ugly game as well. When one team comes not to win, it makes it an ugly game. So it was always better the games where, you know, you're playing against an Albion or Wolves where they think they can come and get something out of the game as well, because it leaves space for us. Do
you think that if a team sets itself up not to lose, because I mean clearly teams do and managers do set them up. I mean Benitez when Newcastle played Chelsea the other week, he'd done exactly the same. Didn't park one bus, he parked half a dozen, didn't he? Do you think that to make the game better, they should get no points? They've done absolutely nothing to try and win a game, so give them no points?
Well, I don't know, because if it's a point that keeps you up or a point that wins you something, they're going to say, well, tactically we were right. So I don't think you can give them nothing. It just makes it. I wouldn't want to go and watch a team that played that way. Yeah. But then you'll speak to people and go, well, listen, we'll take 10 of them away from home, 10 points and stay in the division. So it's horrible to watch. I think the problem you've got is if you do set up to play that way, if you do go 1-0 down, then all of a sudden there aren't many teams that can switch from ultra defensive mode to we're going to have attack and get a goal back. And I think then if you do go a goal down, it makes it really hard to get back in the game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you set up and you're always in a game, because like Birmingham in the 70s and the 80s, we were always in the game. We was always trying to win. In your day, we were always trying to win a game, especially at St Andrews. We didn't sit back. But you're right, again, under McLeish, who's now your Scotland manager, you know, he set us up with one up top, and we were just really looking at winning eyeballs, I mean, and corners and free kicks and just nicking our goal.
Well, a lot of my mates who were season ticket holders down the Blues, towards the end of Bruce's reign and obviously McLeish and that, they stopped going because they said
boring.
They said we're playing teams at home, we're seeing one attempt on goal. Just, you know, we're happy with a 0-0 or 1-0, and first and foremost you want to go to football. Obviously it's great to see your team win, but you want to be entertained, you want to be excited. That's why you go back to Baz's era. You might not win or you definitely wouldn't win every game, but in most games you'd be entertained and you'd see goals and you'd see action. And I think even now, deep down, you know, the Premiership's the holy grail. Everyone wants to get there and stay there, but you want to go to your gut. Would you want to see your team draw 0-0 or lose 1-0 without having an attempt on goal, or lose 5-2 or 4-3? You know, excitement, that's what it's all about. You want to go on your Saturday and be entertained.
Personally, yeah, okay, obviously you want to see your team win, but I want to see my team try and play football.
Yeah.
And if we got beat 4-3, then so be it.
Yeah.
But at least we've set ourselves up. We've tried to win a game of football. We've tried to entertain, and we've put into practice what we've been doing all week, and we've entertained.
That's always my argument. I think with the Championship is the toughest league in the world to get out of. I've got no doubt about that. We are good enough on our day to beat anyone at home. Yeah. So I'd like to see us every home game, and I think Gary Monk has done it, to be honest, set up to win the game at home. Now, there might be games away where you go, I don't know, Middlesbrough, Derby, where you think, well, we take a point here today. Now, that's a different story. Yeah. But at home, I'd love to see all teams setting up to go and win the game. Because if you're setting up for a draw at home, you know, it's not looking too positive.
But again, there's a counter argument to that, isn't there? Say you're playing a good team away from home, they're going to come at you, so they're going to leave space behind. So if you're good on the counter attack and you've got a bit of pace within your team, you can hit them on the break. So although you might go, all right, we're going to play extra midfield instead of two players up top. So tactically we're going to change it because we're away from home. But we're not going to be boring and defensive. We're going to invite them on because they're going to come on, but we're going to hit them on the break.
But how many times do you look at fixtures or games coming up, whatever, and go, oh, you take a point there. Managers do that as well. Players even do it. So, you know, we all do it, don't we? Go, oh yeah, we got this month, we could beat them, but take a draw there. So you do it, don't you?
But again, I'd like to have a go, but if I got the draw, I'd be quite happy with it. You know, again, it's like, if you said, before we were playing Man United, and you say, would you take the draw now? Yeah. And most people would say, we're going to Man United to set the draw. Well, you're 2-0 up, and in the 89th minute, you draw 2-2, you're gutted. So it's all about your perception, isn't it, of the game? And like QPR, it's sad really that QPR come to St Andrews and play in that way, because in the 70s they well,
I think if you look at a couple of their recent results, they've been given 7 and 3. Yeah. So they were always going to come and shut up shop. And McLaren, if you'd have asked him before the game, would have been over the moon with the points. So it didn't surprise me. We probably played them at the wrong time, coming off 2 spankings, because they may well have come and tried to win the game if they'd have won those previous 2 games.
But again, how good were they in the 70s? Yeah, you know, the likes of Stan Bowles and you know,
Jerry Francis and people like that.
Don Givens, who come to Birmingham after QPR. And just while we're in the QPR ballpark, Don Shanks, that used to play for QPR, is doing the New York Marathon. Oh, right. Sadly, Stan Bowles has got Alzheimer's. Yeah. So guys, if you want to go onto our page or onto my page, Gabby Cabby on Facebook, all the details are on there, so you can donate to that magnificent cause. And we are going to be linking up with Don in future shows on here. Brilliant. Same with Frank as well. Frank's not very well. Alzheimer's as well. It's I mean, again, a terrible thing that so many former players do tend to get this horrible disease.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder. You know, I know Jeff Astel's family with their foundation, with the repeated heading of the ball. I think proportionately, there's been a couple of surveys done, and there's a lot more footballers get it than people outside that profession. So there must be something in it. You know, with the repeatedly heading the ball, and especially when you're talking about those guys who were in the pump in the 70s, the balls were a lot different then. You know, the balls are very, very light compared to what they were playing with. So you know, we could do with more studies being done on it.
Best derby you've ever played in? I'm guessing the Blues and Villa game.
Villa Blues.
Biggest derby in Britain?
Celtic Rangers.
I was just about to say that. And
Celtic Rangers.
Because again, south of the border, there's a lot of people that go, oh, it's a Mickey Mouse, it's a pub league. I mean, Scottish football is a little bit in the doldrums. Yeah. I think Scottish football could benefit by the way that all the money is in England, and these good players that we've got that aren't getting a game, they could move up to Celtic and Rangers and Hearts and Hibs and have a great career up there.
Well, you know, obviously I've got a big interest in with all my dad's side of the family. You know, I know how big Celtic and Rangers are. You know, Rangers the last few years have had their problems, but what people forget is for Celtic winning the league, they get like 3 or 4 million.
Exactly.
For getting relegated here, getting 180, 90 million, then people say, well, they couldn't even get to the group stages of the Champions. They've got to the group stage of the Champions League loads of times in the last... Not done brilliant, obviously, but that's an achievement. When you look at the population, you look at what Celtic's wage bill will be compared to... I would say it might even be comparable unless a lot Huddersfield and people like that. It isn't like 10, 15, 20 years ago when they had more money and they could attract Henrik Larsson, they could attract Chris Sutton, John Hart's and people like that. It just isn't like that now. But if Celtic and Rangers had access to the Sky money that the teams in the Premier League got. And people don't want to hear it, and people will disagree. And they came down and played in the Premier League. Within 10 years, one of them two would win it. Because they've got the fan base to do it.
I personally don't think it'd take 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I have this argument on Facebook quite a lot. What with the League Cup that is now whatever the Carabao Cup, I find it amazing that to try and spice that up, they go to Thailand and do a draw. I mean, what difference is that going to make? Or the FA Cup, where again teams will rest players.
Yeah.
I think what they should do with either of the cups, I mean, I don't mind what one they do, midweek cup, Saturday cup, be better off if it's the FA Cup, but have teams from Scotland and arguably, again, if you want Irish teams in there, because in the olden days, it was teams from England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales that competed in the FA Cup. And I think if you had Celtic and Rangers in that competition, I think it would add a lot of spice to a competition. The problem is losing its magic.
Especially with the teams in the top flight, they're going to fight it tooth and nail not to have Celtic and Rangers to come, because they know with the size of the club they are and the fan base, they'll be a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And they don't want them taking their piece of the pie, do they? To me, you're looking at teams now playing weakened teams in the League Cup, weakened teams in the FA Cup. If it was me, I think the only way you rectify that, you have Champions League for first and second, and you have Champions League for the winners of the two cups. You'd get everyone trying to win it then, and they'd get back to up there, whereas at the minute, no one's particularly bothered.
Or, back in the old days, have the European Cup for the champions. Because again, this is another argument that I had a big argument on Facebook. I cannot believe it's called the Champions League,
and you can finish
yet
fourth.
Celtic don't get into the automatic Champions League. You finish fourth and you're in the bloody Champions League.
One of the best,
ain't a Champions
one of
League.
the best finals in recent history is, Liverpool Milan, and they finished fourth that year.
Yeah.
So they win the Champions League, and they were the fourth best team. So I know it's all a money spinner, as everything is, but there could be a way to make these cup competitions more exciting. Like you say, invite other teams down to play in it. But yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've played in a Nottingham derby, which doesn't happen a lot. Notts County Forest, and we won as well. Notts County won. That was fantastic. Sheffield derby, unbelievable. And Villa, and I've obviously been to Celtic and Rangers, so I've been lucky. I've experienced some real good ones.
Sadly, Watford haven't really got a derby.
Well, Luton's their big game, but it's not really a derby, and obviously Luton's ground's only tiny. So I've been involved in Watford Luton as well, but I mean all derby games are special.
So the biggest four clubs that you would say, British clubs, in number one, number two.
I think you'd have to say Man U, Liverpool
would be 1 and 2 in everybody's book.
Man U, Liverpool. Do you put Man City in there now just because of the financial clouds?
I think you have to go with everything in football, Dev. What they've won, the size, worldwide, global, everything. When you're looking at a big club, because again, for Man City, although they're big at the moment, they've got a great team. They ain't bigger than Man United. They need to go a long way.
I think Man U. Then you've got. I mean, I wouldn't even put Chelsea in it, to be honest.
No, I wouldn't.
Arsenal, but I mean, when I go all over the place, I've been fortunate with football to go around the world. You see Celtic tops everywhere you go. So and I'm biased as well, so I'd have to put Celtic in there. I don't know who the fourth would be. Arsenal maybe. We've got a few big clubs, but truly worldwide ones. I'd definitely say those three. We'll get shut down, won't we? And for not mentioning other teams, but that's just my opinion.
To be honest, I've had many times and I've shut down for my opinion, generally over Grealish. Also as well, the fact that I think Celtic are the third biggest British football club. I would say Arsenal the fourth, and then I would have Rangers as the fifth. I know Rangers have gone through a bad time, but for me, the biggest British derby, without any shadow of doubt, is Rangers and Celtic.
I watched Graham Souness's interview pre the derby game the other week, and there's a man that's played at every level, and he said, with the exception of European Cup finals, which is a little bit different, obviously, it's the biggest game he played in. And you look at some of the games he's played in for Liverpool, Everton, and he's, when he's gone and managed abroad and he's come back here, it's a big statement for someone who's been a world-class player himself.
And certainly put that flag.
Put the flag in, we got
Galatasaray.
Fenerbahce, wasn't it, I think. So, people that don't really know about Scottish football or haven't been involved with Scottish football, they're a bit ignorant to how big Celtic and Rangers are, and they just go Mickey Mouse League, Mickey Mouse. And it is a weak league, there's no two ways about that. But if you look at how many people live in Scotland and the money they get with, they can only do what they can do.
One of Celtic's former players, you did mention him earlier, Chris Sutton, got a little bit of stick when he said, in his opinion, Cardiff straight away 100% down before the balls.
Yeah, I saw that.
You would have said that, I would have said that, and most of us would have said that, wouldn't we?
Well, I saw that, and I saw the bloke he was arguing with as a Cardiff fan.
Exactly, yeah.
So he's going, well, why can you say that? And you do, you base it on opinion. I dare say most seasons when teams come up, you go, oh, they'll go straight back down, they'll go straight back down. He's looking at the size of the club, the size of the budget, the players they've got, and he's formed an instant opinion, as most of us do.
Yeah.
But the only sort of counter-argument I heard the bloke saying to him was, well, they've got a fantastic team spirit.
Wow.
But if they're not good enough, it doesn't matter how good the team spirit is. And realistically, you know, if you didn't tip Cardiff to go down, you'd have to question how much you know about football. Listen, I hope they stay up. I really like Neil Warnock, and I think it'd be good if they could stay up. But you've got to say, red hot favourites to go down.
I'll be honest, the Toby Jug have got a great team spirit.
Yeah.
If they were in the Premier League, I think they get a shoe in.
That's it. Team spirit. It can take you a long way. Of course it can take you a long way. But ultimately, you need the ability in there as well. And I think he's just looking at their net spend was 20 million. Fulham's was 100 million. So therefore, logic tells you, well, Fulham have spent a bit more, they've got a better chance. So I didn't see, apart from the fact that the bloke arguing with him was a dyed-in-the-wool Cardiff fan, what he was basing his argument on, to be honest.
And I also think that when you looked at the Championship last year, I don't think anybody would have suggested that Cardiff was going to get out of it. And I think that had they not have had Warnock as the manager, I don't think they would have. Yeah. But when you get up into that big boys league, you need a little bit more of Warnock sticking people up the wall and you know, getting that team.
Well, I hope they do it because he hasn't had chance to keep a team up.
Yeah.
And you know, I think he's approaching 70 now, Neil. So it'd be great to see him achieve that before he finishes. Whether he will or not, I don't know. But like you say, I mean, they even should have blew it on the last game. You know, we hammered Fulham last game, they drew, so Fulham could have gone up automatically. And then in the playoffs, would you really back them to beat Villa at Wembley? You don't know. So he done it, and what you can't say is it's a fluke because he's done it more than any other manager, get a team out that league. So I think it'd be really, really difficult for them, but I'd love to see them do it.
While we're talking about playoffs, how difficult is it to play that game?
The at
Wembley, although you played at Cardiff against Norwich.
It's an unbelievable. The pressure, and the relief you feel when you've done it, because it's the biggest game. You know, you could realistically say it's the biggest game that you're ever going to play in. When you look at the riches that are on offer and what it means to the club to get promoted into the Premier League, what it means to a set of fans who have had 16 years out the top flight, and it means you're going to be having derby days against the Villa, your biggest rivals. It's huge, and I can't sort of overplay how much pressure there is on that game. Great games to play, brilliant games to play. But ultimately, if you don't win them, it's a nightmare. Oh, hang on. I don't know why my phone's talking. So, yeah, they're great games to play. And I was fortunate I played in one final and won it. I played in the semi-final for Sheffield and we lost to Sunderland, which was a heartbreaker. But brilliant days. So it's like, I always say, if you can guarantee you can win the playoff final, it's the best way to go up because it's like playing in a cup final. And it's a day out, you're at a special ground, you're winning a trophy. It's better than finishing second.
But for you, being a Blues fan as well, do you think that there was more baggage and more on your shoulders rather than, say, for instance, okay, young Carter was, but he's a young kid, so he probably didn't have all that about him.
Definitely.
And other players that aren't Blues fans, they haven't got all that baggage that you had when you was going into that game.
Definitely, because, you know, it means more to players that have been brought up and support the club, like myself, Tatey, Des Carter, people. It does mean more, you know. I'm not saying that Stan Lazaridis and people like that, it didn't mean a lot to them. But Stan's from Australia. Steve Vickers is from Middlesbrough. John O's from Nottingham. They all love the club and they want to do well. But I think it's a special ingredient if you're a homegrown lad and you've supported that team from the terraces to go and be involved. It does mean a little bit more to you. And, you know, I've said it before, scoring the penalty in the playoff final was the best and the worst experience of my life because the goal looks tiny and it's just that much relief when it goes in because all you're thinking is, I don't want to be the one that missed. I don't want to be. So it does mean more, and I think that would apply to players that play for any club if they've supported that team.
How heavy did your legs feel while you was walking up?
Well, whenever I took penalties, I took a lot of penalties down the years. I always had quite a long run up, but I knew I had cramp in both calves, and I knew if I'd done my normal run up, I know I'd have cramped up before I got to the ball. So I had to half my run up, which I never liked doing, and it's a pet hate of mine when I see players doing these stupid, fancy, prancing run ups and missing a penalty. Yeah. I used to give myself 12, 15 yards to get a bit of pace, generate the power, and I'd put it hard, always to my left, really. And that's how I used to take them. But I knew I was going to be in trouble before I got there. So that made the worry even more, to be honest.
Did you think about passing responsibility at that stage?
No, because we'd practiced the penalties. You know, only 4 of us got to take it. Usually never got to take his. We'd done it for 2 or 3 weeks leading up, where every day religiously we'd do the penalties. And we had some good penalty takers, to be fair. So I was quite confident when it went to penalties.
The horse not being one of them.
Horse was hiding behind the dugout. I always take the mickey out of him, but he scored the goal, didn't he? And he'll keep telling us about the goals he scored, not the penalties. But it's amazing. You'd think a centre forward, they're always greedy for goals. A free shot from 12 yards, but you'd be amazed how many don't fancy it, because it is until you've been in that position where you're 12 yards away and the keeper's there and he looks about 10 foot tall and the goal looks tiny, but everyone thinks you should score. It brings its own pressure.
And you're right, it is, Matt, because you do see centre forwards who's pretty much their job is to score goals that don't want to take a penalty. But you've never seen a goalkeeper that's gone, right, lads, I don't fancy this. The centre half want to go in goal.
Goalies love them. Goalies love penalty shootouts because it's a no-lose situation for them. If they concede all 5, well, they're expected to. If they save 1, they're the hero. So goalies love penalty shootouts because they can't, and obviously they say they can't lose. If their team loses, they lose. But no one's going to say, he played crap in the penalty shootout. They're going to remember the kids that missed the penalties.
And goalkeepers like to take the penalties as well, don't they? Are they good at taking penalties? Or
some are. Most goalies, and all the goalies that I play with will be getting in touch with me now. Most goalies, when they want to play out in 5, they're useless. Yeah, they try and think they're players, and they'll play out in 5, and all it does is annoy the outfield players. But I think more and more so now, they have got to be better with their feet. I think this is where Peter Cech particularly has been struggling, because a lot of managers are asking the goalies to be like a sweeper now and play out. But yeah, I think there was I think it was Chilivert, wasn't it, the Chile keeper? Didn't he score something like 50 odd goals in his career? Took the free kicks, took the penalties. So you can get it, but most of the ones I played with, keep them with the gloves on.
You see, the thing is, again, this is another point of mine, that in modern game, the manager, I want a good goalkeeper who can pass a ball because we want to play out from the back. But often, and then I kind of get it if you're a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or a Man City and a team of football players. But as you start coming down the Premier League, you got centre halves that can't play bloody football, so you're playing out from the back and you're just putting yourself in trouble. I watched Derby a couple of times, and that Keogh, who plays at Derby, the centre half, he's always looked decent. But it just struck me that Frank said, what we want to do now, lads, we want to play out from the back. Well, they've got these pair of lumps that can't play football, so you don't want to give the goalkeeper the ball and have the ball in them areas. What you want to do, kids, is get the ball into the middle third and then start playing football. Don't play out from the back.
You've got to know your personality. You've got to play. Exactly. I remember when Zola came in, he did something similar, and he was asking Shotton and people like that to, and it was making them look silly because that's not their game. It's all right having Baresi and Maldini and people like that who are comfortable, but like you say, a lot at championship level are not comfortable doing that, and a lot have never played their career with doing it that way. It's get the ball long, push up and defend. But it's fashionable now to have your keeper playing it out, which is great if your personnel are capable of doing it, but it's horses for courses. And I think as a manager, a big strength for a manager, you look at what you've got and you play to your strength. Now Watford, perfect example, get it forward to Troy Deeney and Andre Gray. Might not be pretty at times, but it's effective. They've had the best start to the season for 30 odd years. So why is that better? Or was that worse than somebody who's going to pass it out from the back to the midfield, to this, to that, to that? You play to what you've got.
But whenever I've seen Watford, they play through midfield.
Yeah.
They've got some decent midfield players.
Yeah.
So they tend to... Because football's in 3/3, isn't it?
Yeah.
So your defensive third, let's get it out of that defensive third, into the middle third, into the final third. And if we can get that up there quicker, then we got more chance of having shots at goal. And it's like this when they say, oh, they press high, they press high. When I used to have my kids, I'd tell them to press high. Because if you were a forward and you lost the ball, win the bloody ball back. Keep them down that area. It ain't rocket science. If that player then gets out, then you've got to drop off. Because if you all go in, they'll play it over the top. Football's common sense. I think these coaches try and complicate the game because they think we're all stupid.
Well, I mean, the team that never get credit for how well they've done that, but they got credit for loads of other things, was Barcelona. But Barcelona, I'm going back 4 or 5 years when they were probably the best club team I've ever seen in my life. They won the ball back so quickly, and I'm sure it said Guardiola had this 7-second or 11-second things where you lose a ball, 11 seconds. If you didn't win it back in the 11 seconds, everyone drops back in, and you let them have possession. So they were great at that. I even remember going back to when I was watching football, Liverpool with Ian Rush. And you listen to people that played and said he was our first line. The amount of closing down and cutting people's angles off. So, and defending does start from the front. If you've got a couple of attackers that close down, that don't give space, it don't have to make it hard for the other team to get out, and it's easier for your defenders as well. So this high press, it's become a fashionable phrase. They always got the high press or the intense press. I don't think it's anything new. It's just that people keep mentioning it now.
I just think they're trying to justify the high salaries and wages. I think it's ridiculous because football really fundamentally hasn't changed for the years. It's still the same game, isn't it?
The point of it is to keep it out that end and put it in that end.
It ain't rocket science, is it?
That's what it is, isn't it? Anything that happens in between, it's like my mates always say to me when they're playing golf, it's not how, it's how many. So it doesn't matter how you get that ball in that hole or that ball in that net. It's how many times you can do it and stop it at the other end.
Exactly. And dressing rooms, a bit of a blow up in the Republic of Ireland dressing room.
It's a shot with Roy Keane.
Well, exactly. I mean, is it really news?
No. Anybody that's been around professional football will know, if not every day, every other day, there's an argument on a training pitch, or you fall out with the coach, or you fall out with the manager because you might not be in the team, or you might be injured, or you might have said something you disagree with. It happens every day, every single day. It's nothing new. God, when I was playing, we'd have people round the throats, and you'd be threatening to do this and do that to them, and an hour later you'd be eating dinner together. It's a testosterone fueled environment, the changing room, so you're going to get emotions running high. So it's a non-story for me, really. And people will make the fact that it's Roy Keane and Roy's miserable and Roy's this and Roy's that, and that's why it's news. It's
like Roy's pissed off a couple of players. Well, he does that to about 10 million people every time he's on Sky. But he just says things as he sees it.
Roy says it, and to be honest, I've said it before, best midfielder I ever played against, homegrown one in this country. When you've had the career that he's had, I'm not saying I agree with everything Keane says, but you got to give him some credence to when he's saying. And there's a bloke that was just so single-minded, will to win, love him or hate him. You can't take away the fact he was a fantastic captain, a fantastic player, and had a stellar career.
How many times did you play against him?
Played against him 2 or 3 times, I think. When he was at Forest and then at Man U, he was just unbelievable. He was the best sort of, say, British Republic of Ireland, the best sort of homegrown midfielder. And I played against Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, but Keane he could drag a team through on his own. He had that little bit more.
What was the fundamental difference that Keane had that some of them other players didn't?
Well, you could just tell when I played against him at Man U, and they had Beckham, they had Giggs, they had Scholes, all superstars in their own right. You can just tell they hung on every word he said, and he was without doubt the gaffer. And if he told him that they'd done it, he just had this aura about him of invincibility. I think the day we played against him, he'd just come back from long-term injury, and he just give it simple, never give the ball away. I just think as a leader and as an example, he'd do. as he got older, he adapted his game and he dropped further deep. You know, when he was a kid at Forest and first went to Man, he was box to box getting goals.
But he didn't score that many goals, did he?
No,
throughout his career?
But he wasn't. You know, not when you look at Lampard and Gerrard. To be fair, but when you look at everything else he brought to the team, the leadership and doing the horrible things and keeping people in check, stopping the other team. He did score a few goals. You know, he ain't got a bad goal scoring record. I just think as a captain, as a whole, you know, I remember reading Fergie's book saying that he never thought he'd see a better captain than Brian Robson, and he thought Keane might be that one. He obviously since that they've had the fallout, which is a shame. But he just everything he brought to the team, as well as his ability, his aura.
But again, I don't see how you can't fall out with football. I mean, I could fall out with people daily on Facebook, but ultimately it's all about opinions. I mean, we have different opinions.
Everyone's got different opinions. Everybody wants to see different things, and everybody's got preferences, different styles of play.
Exactly,
so you know, everyone can, just because I disagree with you doesn't make you right or me right.
Exactly.
We could both be wrong. Do you know what I mean?
So again, that's it, Dev, innit? You know, it's just that people say, well, he played at a high level, so he's got to be right. It's absolute rubbish. It's your opinion. Yeah. And there's no right, there's no wrong. There's not kind of any textbook way to play football. You just play. You play football.
Well,
what comes naturally.
Well, I could get back to you know, you adapt to what you've got.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, if you've got Kevin Francis in the team, you're not going to play to his feet, are you? You're going to get the ball in the box. If you've got Michael Owen, you're going to turn it in behind. So you have to see what you've got. And I think where managers fall down, and I think this is where Zola struggled when he came to Blues. Under Rowett, we were a very sort of workman-like, grind-out results team. All of a sudden, he wanted us to be passing out from the back, and we never had the personnel to do it, as results proved.
But you're right, a team like Barcelona could play out from the back. They still play out from the back. But I can't see them players playing out from the back in Miami, because I think it's going to be a futsal game.
Yeah, well, it's looking that way. You know, we spoke about it briefly earlier. I'm surprised because normally your club or your association tells you where you're going and you go. But as I said earlier, it just shows you now the power that the players have got to say, no, we're not going. Especially Real Madrid and Barcelona players, who are the two most powerful clubs on the planet.
Because again, this TV deal in America, that they're hoping to have a few La Liga games.
Yeah.
If that happens, where the Barcelona players say we ain't going, then that deal that could be worth millions and millions for them, that's gonna. Do
you know when it'll change, Gab? If they tell the players, listen, if we do this deal, you'll get more money.
Exactly.
That's the only way it'll change.
Yeah. So the principle of the players will be put on that back burner if there's extra dollar, which I fully expect it to be put onto the table. Like what we've just seen with Denmark.
Yeah.
It was going to be the futsal players, but then they come to an agreement where they've paid them the money. Right, now we'll play. I mean,
American football have done it with the Wembley game, haven't they? And you know, it's proved quite positive, and I think they get massive crowd. I'm not particularly into American football.
Neither am I.
But yeah, you know, it'll happen. It'll happen because the powers that be want it to happen, and eventually they'll have to bite the bullet and go. So if Ramos has got 1 year left on his contract and he thinks, right, if we go to here, there might be another year and it might be another 50 grand a week for you, because the clubs can generate 100 million from doing it or whatever with the telly and the marketing, they'll do it.
Yeah.
They'll do it.
It's all about the dough, innit?
Yeah, and the problem you've got is with the elite players like Madrid and Barcelona. It's no use saying to them, well, if you don't go, you're getting fined 2 weeks' wages. Because it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
They've got that much money now, more money than sense.
Yeah.
They've got that much money, even League One players can get the plasma off the wall and throw it against another wall. The mates, film them on the telephone and stick it on YouTube. Oh, what's all that about? It's mad.
Yeah, he was on about it. It's a strange one, for it to come out into the public domain as well. You know,
his mate put it on there.
What were they saying? He's fell out with his missus or something like that?
His manager was on TalkSport the other day and said that he'd fallen out with his girlfriend and he wasn't in the best of places, so he smashed his flat up.
Yeah, all right.
But Danny Murphy did say he was actually laughing and smiling. I've never known people split up with a missus, be really unhappy, and then throw a television and start laughing. So whether it was her flat or his flat, nobody really knows. But I just find that just the modern game, some of the players just don't help themselves, and some of the mates of the players don't help them.
Well, I mean, to be shown laughing, throwing someone that's probably crossed a grand or two and
Crazy,
just not bothered, it doesn't come across well, does it?
No.
It comes across as a bit arrogant.
Yeah.
Like you say, is it his telly or is it his missus' telly? And then you might, I mean, I'd have to question what type of pal he is. He's going to know he's going to get stick for this. He's going to know it's going to go out into the public domain. I mean, down the years, I speak to most players, they've done things when they're out and about that they're not particularly proud of and don't want to get out into the public domain.
3-6 toilets.
Yeah, and you don't want your mate putting videos of it on.
Exactly.
Do you? So it's a strange one, really strange.
But again, this is the social media age that we live in. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? And some of these mates, I don't know what it is. You look at some of the TV programmes that they watch, it's Love Island and all the rest of it. It just seems to be a different culture. Even the language that they use today, it just seems like you're almost talking to aliens.
Well, a lot of the time as well, I mean, Grealish has been caught in the past anyway. You know, not too flattering pictures of him, and that's obviously come from someone in his circle. They might be getting money for it.
Yeah.
They might be getting paid. So, and then you got to look and say, well, he ain't really my pal. You know, because one thing you do have when you're a footballer, you have loads of people wanting to be your friend, and you've probably only ever in your life got 5 or 6 people that you can call true life friends. So even, you know, at that League One level, he'll be surrounded by people that if they can get something for themselves, you know, whether that's a couple of quid from putting it on, you know, giving it to a newspaper. So you got to be careful. You got to be really careful. But it just looks arrogant when he's doing that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like the snake on the plane. Do you remember with it was the Villa player Delph? I'm going to stay, I'm going to go. And then you look at Berahino as well, with him staying and going and stuff. And then had we got Lescott that posted a picture of the car from his back pocket?
Yeah, his new car.
And it's just things like that. It's almost as though they're saying to the fan, or the way that the fan can read it, I've got all this money, I don't give a shit, throwing it there. And like, you know what, you're paying for it all. And you know, you've got players that'll leave £200,000 cars in car parks, and it's like, oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, the Berahino one where he was out the team and he was a stone overweight and he took a picture of himself on a private jet.
Exactly.
And posting, you're a bloke that's working 40, 50 hours a week in a factory, going and paying 30, 40, 50 quid to watch him, and he's not trying and he's posting that. You're more than entitled to be angry. You know, I defend footballers a lot because some of the stick they get's unfair, but when you're doing that, you deserve everything you get.
And then again, motivation of certain players, the ones that aren't the true pros, because you look at the likes of United with Scholes and Giggs and all them players, highly motivated because they were champions and they were winners. But you look at West Ham spends £100 million, they ain't won a game, and Pellegrini's already under the cosh, and he's had the dreaded vote of confidence from Karen Brady.
Well, in fairness to Karen and Sullivan and Gold, they do normally stick with their managers, you know, for a period. I know obviously Moyes didn't last long, but he was sort of interim, wasn't he? Now it'd be interesting to see what the West Ham fans say, because they've hammered Brady for not spending any money. They've spent £100 million. They'll be paying top dollar for Pellegrini, who's a Premier League winner, and they've gone. And it's still not happening. And then people will moan about the stadium. They'll moan about this. I don't think they can do any more at the moment than what they've done for the team and Pellegrini. It just isn't happening. Just isn't happening for them.
Do you think they should have? I mean, again, if you're a manager for Christmas, I'd be asking Santa to bring me a crystal ball, because I think that'd be handy. But with hindsight, you look back. Was it right for West Ham to get rid of Moyes and Pierce and the staff that he had and bring in Pellegrini? You're right, he has won the league, but he won it with Man City. West Ham ain't Man City. And some of the players that he's bought in are not kind of West Ham players. So he's still got bits of an old team, bits of his team. He's trying to put them two factions together. What he needs is time. The one thing that Premier League managers or any league manager don't get, Kevin Nolan's been sacked, by the way. His time is just ridiculous, even at his level. And I would dare say it's a lot easier to manage Man City with their squad than it is, you know, when he had it, than West Ham. He's coming to I mean, to be fair, you know, Moyes kept them up and it looked like it had turned the corner a little bit under him, but I think what they've done there, they've bowed for the pressure from the fans. Well, you ain't spending, you're not doing. So, okay, we've got a world-renowned manager in for you. We've given him 100 million. What more can we do? I think there was definitely an element of that.
Would they have been in a better position sticking with Moyes and Stuart Pearce and giving them 100 million?
Yeah.
I'd probably say yes, because I don't think they'd have bought in the type of players that Pellegrini's bought in.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you're going about the West Ham way, and this, I don't buy with that, because you're going back to the 60s, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, so you play how you play with the players that you've got. But you know, his signings haven't worked out up until now very good.
And again, you're right. What is the West Ham way? Because I think Sam Allardyce said that.
Yeah.
West Ham ain't played football like that for
we
years.
all romanticise about our clubs, don't we? You know, Frank Worthington and Nick Harford and Tony Colton, you know, my favourite heroes. And then, you know, people go, Albion fans, we're used to, when they're going on about Pulis, we were used to fast-flowing attack. We're going back to the 70s with Cyril and Laurie and people like that. We all remember the good times, but it might be a long time ago. You've got to play with what you've got at this moment in time. I think Big Sam said it, well, there's only one way to play it, they're winning football or losing football. You know, everything in between really is irrelevant.
And there's more than one way to win a game of football.
Definitely.
You know, as you say, if you ain't got them players, you can't play pretty football. Jack Charlton was very won it at the Republic of Ireland.
But he had Noel Quinn, 6'5", and he had Tony Castro, 6'4".
How are you going to play?
He said, well, why am I going to play to their feet?
Yeah.
I'm going to get the ball, I'm going to get it in the box, cause havoc. And he ended up having the most successful spell in the Republic's history, doing it that way. So, there's no right and wrong. There's things we want to see, and there's why, you know, you'd rather see 20 passes and a great goal at the end of it than somebody lumping in a flick on, but it's horses for courses, mate.
But again, football is football, and we all love the game. Whether there's vast improvements from how the game used to be played years ago, I don't know. My favourite decade will always be the 70s. And yes, there will be a bit of bias because I used to watch them players as kids and they were my heroes. But, you know, they're trying to develop the game all the time. They're trying to make it better. They've now introduced this Nations League. I mean, how's that going to make any difference?
I'm not sure anybody really knows the format of that. You know, I think that there's a qualification place at the end of it, isn't there?
I don't know.
So, I know. I've listened to people try and explain it, and it seems a very long-winded thing. I think people, it's a fancy way of mocking up a friendly, isn't it? You know, to say it's not a friendly.
Yeah.
I'd have preferred to see the home nations back, to be honest with you, or something like that. But you know, if Scotland end up qualifying for something out of it, then I'll be saying it's the best competition going.
To be fair, to a nation like Scotland, it may be our benefit because it's all seeded. So if you're one of the top seeds, you're playing against the top team. So, you know, if you have a bit of a bad run, you can finish bottom and then your placing will come down. But, like, we all know who the best teams are and who the best players are. And I don't think they need to invent some poxy competition to, if, say, for instance, Spain win it, they'll already qualify. Well, they'll probably already qualify anyhow, because with the World Cup and the European Cup, well, the Nations Champion, whatever they want to call it these days, Euro, they're going to extend it to have more teams in there, so more of the better teams are going to qualify. And if you look at recent times with England's qualifications group, I mean, blimey, Birmingham could qualify out of that. I think
that's the thing. You mentioned the seeding programme, and you know, it's a bit of a joke, really. I don't really know how to work it out.
No, I don't.
Well, I do. It's all geared up for the bigger nations to qualify. You know, I think they need to find a better way of doing it. How that way is, I don't know. And like you say, it's almost like now they're making it more difficult not to qualify with extending the amount of teams in it, doing the Nations League. You know, I'm glad they've worked that seeding one a little bit different, so lesser teams play lesser teams. Because looking back, you know, just following Scotland down the years, even when they've got to competitions, they've always had ridiculously difficult groups with Brazil, Germany, teams like that.
Iran,
you know, you know, I played in for the Euros in Portugal, the qualifiers in. I think we had Germany, and I'm not sure whether we had Holland as well. But you know, and we did have Iceland and the Faroe Islands as well. But you know, I just look sometimes, and I don't think it helps England, particularly when they get such an easy group, what they've done for the last couple of qualifiers.
Totally agree.
They go through it unbeaten. And then when they come up against really good teams, they've not got that experience of playing those top teams.
I think the minnows should be in their own little group and take them away and have more of a competitive, you know, a league. But again, it's like football just seems to be, I don't know, it's just mad. I mean, you look at all this like financial fair play as well. That's a new thing that's come in. I mean, you explain that as well. You explain how this Nations League works, how financial fair play works. How's football working? Because the way I see it, it's getting more complicated, not more simpler. Because I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the financial fair play, it's turnover of your budget, isn't it? And what you're spending on wage and different things. But, you know, does it, whoever's your chairman or your benefactor, if you like, if they've got more money, does that make any difference? And they say, we'll cover the debts. I don't know. I mean...
But how does that make it fair play?
But I don't think it's ever been fair, has it?
No, and I don't think it ever will be, Dev.
Because you've always had the clubs with more money being able to buy the best players.
Yep.
And I don't think that's changed from 50 years ago.
It hasn't.
And it won't change in 50 years' time. If you're capable of spending 100 million on a player and you can do it, then why not? But if Rochdale, they can't do that. Or if you're Huddersfield, you can't do that. So how do they ever make it fair? Unless they say, right, each team can only spend X amount of million a year and there's a wage cap. And that'll never happen because the big clubs won't allow it to happen.
A lot of what you do with your dream team, and no, it won't. I mean, you look at Paris Saint-Germain, spent all that money on Neymar and then bought Mbappe in the same season. But you know what? They had him on loan. Yeah. It's like you're having a lot. You're buying a £200 million player on loan. Yeah. You're taking the wrong.
Well, that's it. There's always going to be ways round different things.
And that's your problem.
Different things.
For the big clubs, there's ways round. For the smaller clubs, Bolton have just got into administration. Birmingham might even have 12 points taken off them. How's that helping the football clubs at that level? It's not. It's penalising them, and it's getting worse.
Yeah, well, it doesn't help me. You know, people were saying at the start of the season that there was 12 or 13 teams in the Championship under this embargo. Now, are they going to deduct them all 12 points?
Don't know.
You know, it'd be interesting to see how it all plays out. But there's got to be a better system implemented going forward, because you can't have all these clubs that are nearly going to the wall. And I think it'll take one club to actually go. I think a club will need to go bump before people realise this can happen. It'll never happen to the bigger clubs because they won't be allowed to go bump. But you know, you just hope it's not your own team, don't you?
And I think it won't happen to a big club because there'll always be some multi-million or billionaire. Like, for instance, you look in our area, Villa. Yeah. It looked at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, they were in trouble,
doing that. And then all of a sudden, 2 billionaires bought them.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was Birmingham, they wouldn't have found them benefactors.
No.
And the same with Bolton, they aren't going to. But if it was Liverpool or a Man United or Aston Villa or an Everton or one of the perceived top teams, there will always be people that are willing to put their
Well, I think it'll be interesting in the next transfer window with the two people coming in at the Villa with all this money, how much they actually say, right, okay, go and spend in January.
Yeah. Or can spend.
Because it's all right, these people coming in and saying, oh, he's worth this, he's worth that. That's great, but until they actually say, there you go, that's what you can spend on my wealth, you don't know how much of an impact that's going to have.
But again, what they'll probably do at getting around it, they'll bring these players in on loan. They'll probably bring in Neymar on loan and pay him. And that's it. Just absolutely makes a mockery of the whole system. It's as mad as the seeding. How I would work the seeding out in world football, I'd ask all the nations, who don't you want to play? And they'd all go, Brazil, right? You're number one, Brazil. Yeah. Who else don't you want to play? France, you're number two. Who else don't you want to play? And they'd probably, Germany and Spain. And that's how you work your seedings out. Who people don't want to play. And they said, do you want to play England? Yeah, we'll play England. We'll put them in mid-table like seedings. That's the reality of it.
But the problem with the seeding as well, you could have, say you had 5 internationals in a calendar year and they were all against weakened teams. Yeah. Then you jump up the seedings. But you come to a competition, you're going to have to play. I know Germany didn't have, or Spain, World Cups, but you wouldn't think they'll be as weak again at the next Euros or the next World Cup, or you come across Brazil or Argentina. So you can sort of falsify your ranking.
I would suggest this was the worst World Cup ever.
Yeah,
in terms of the quality teams didn't turn up. And again, I've had many an argument on Facebook saying it's great to see the lesser nations win. Don't get me wrong, yes it is, but I like to see the best players turn up and play good football. And I liken this World Cup to the Premier League that Leicester won. They would not have won the Premier League if the big teams didn't turn up.
Well, I think it was there was a lot of worry, wasn't there, before the World Cup about it being in Russia. I think that they've done a brilliant job. I think it was a great World Cup from an event and Russia hosting it point of view. But actual standard, I agree with you. And, I don't think you'll get a World Cup again with Germany being as bad.
No.
Will you get a World Cup again, Spain, Italy not going, Holland not going? So there's 4 teams that realistically you'd think they should be better at that. And I think the standard was probably as poor as I can remember for this World Cup.
Definitely. Chris, can we get the shout box on, please? He's done his hair. He looks different. He looks like that bloke from... Do you remember him, Dick Emery?
Dick Emery,
Dad,
yeah.
I think I've done it right.
Yeah.
Looks like him. Have you taken your teeth out as well? Come on, get on the shout box. Let's see. Let's have a bit of interaction before we wrap it up. He's going to have a shower while we've been doing this, Dev. We're doing all the work here. Look, he's going to shower. He's done his hair. Any chance of the shout box on there, son, please? Which ain't very fast, Dev. Good job you ain't playing him right back in your right wing. Blimey, you'd have to be doubling up.
Have to do some covering.
Oh, tell me about it.
There you go.
So how's the coaching going anyhow, by the way?
Sean says, really enjoyed the show and football chat from a proper football man. Pat says, Devs should be manager. Teresa says, how come we all couldn't see what Zola couldn't? That's going back a bit, though.
Yeah.
And Sean also said Deeney would be in my squad. That's going back earlier conversations.
Come on, any more? Is there any more?
I can't go back any further, sorry.
Okay, well, there you go. Management, would you fancy going into management?
Yeah, the older I get, the more I fancy it. So, yeah, it'd be something that I'd look to do. Probably non-league level to start with, down the line, yeah.
But where would you think you should go in? Because, I mean, you played international football, you played a good level in the Premier League, so you've played at the top levels. Yeah. Do you think it's right and proper that you should go in at non-league, or like Frank and Stevie G, go in at a higher level? Cause
I think you're going to, Stevie Gerrard and Frank Lampard, obviously superstars, aren't they? I wouldn't even class myself in the same breath as them.
No, but you still play Premier League international.
I still had a reasonably successful long career. Yeah. So it wouldn't bother me going in non-league. I came from non-league. It's something that I know, something that I really enjoyed on my way up and on my way down. So, I'd have no qualms about going in somewhere non-league and try and work my way into the programme. So I don't think I've got a divine right to go in at any level because I've been a player.
So you would seriously consider non-league football, like conference football?
Yeah. Well, not even conference. I'd look further down.
Would you really?
Yeah, I'd look lower down. Yeah, it's.
Would you have to, again, with all due respects to the non-league and down the pyramid, it's about their budget.
Yeah.
A, playing budget, and then B, the manager's budget. Would money be of any consequence? Would you need to earn a certain amount, or you're not bothered about that?
At any level.
Yeah.
If you've got the most money to spend, you've got a better chance.
But what I'm saying is, for you, say Boldmere St Michael said,
I couldn't do it for nothing.
Exactly.
No, I couldn't do it for nothing.
So you'd need a reasonable sized club to start. I'm guessing someone like a Telford.
Yeah, listen,
Solihull Moors.
I'd look at anyone. I wouldn't rule anyone in. I wouldn't rule anyone out. Obviously, I'm not in a position where I could say, right, I'll come and dedicate 3 or 4 days a week for nothing.
Yep, exactly.
And it'd be nice to have a playing budget so you can bring players in, you can pay players. Because, like I say, even at that level, the more money you've got, the better chance you've got, and that goes for every level of the game.
But a lot of our clubs on our patch now, whether it be the Moors, be Kidderminster, be Telford, there's some reasonably sized football clubs there, and again, I know I keep on about it, but I am amazed that these clubs don't tap in, or football per se doesn't tap into the experience of former players like you. Get them involved, go, Dev, there's your budget, there's your money, there's your new car, there's all what you want. You go and take our club up to the next level, progress the game, and then you've got another young manager in the British game, cutting his teeth and making a difference.
Oh, let's hope that it does work out like that.
Yeah, if you know the commercial manager, mate, give us a call. Oh, finally, before we go, let's. What's all this about then, Chris?
Okay, so
if I put it up that way to the camera.
So on the 19th, I think it's the Sheffield United game as well. At the walkabout, there's going to be a couple of auctions. One being that picture there. All proceeds going to Annie, and also there's going to be a shirt. All proceeds going to the Birmingham Owners. So, and that's on the 19th. But also on the night, there's a special deal for Blues fans with beer and stuff. And
special deal for Blues fans to drink beer.
Yeah.
Now, you've already had some bids on this, haven't you? So have you got a reserve on it?
We're up to £100 already. So
great.
So I'm not sure about reserve.
Well, let's backtrack. So you've got £100 on it. So if there's a Blues fan in the walkabout that hasn't got £100, they're not going to take their own with them.
No.
So it's £100 plus.
Yeah.
Has it got to go on that night,
Not
or
really.
are you going to take it to other places to get as much money from that? And who's it signed by? Because it is a fantastic work of art. It's a painting, isn't it?
It is a limited print. Yeah. I can't make out all the signatures.
You never can.
21, I think, on there. So it's a fair few.
Is it the
Plus
current Birmingham City team? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's quite a few.
So there's £100 on that. The
Yeah.
picture is going to be up on SRB Radio with all the links. So can people make telephone bids and Facebook and Twitter bids?
Make me an offer.
Okay, fine. So what we want, guys, for this wonderful picture, Birmingham City, lovely little print there with current players' signatures. At the moment, £100. We would like to turn that into, I would say, £10,000. So if there's a Blues fan that's got a lot of dough, it's all going to a great cause for young Annie. So dig deep in your pockets. At the moment, £100, but we want a lot more.
A lot more.
Okay.
Apparently, the chap who owns Walkabout is a big Blues fan.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. So
Apparently, he owns half of Broad Street.
does he really? So that might actually be up there on the wall of Walkabout for about 10 grand then if he's a big Blues fan. There you go. Right then, for this episode, Dev, thanks a lot, pal.
Cheers,
it's been an absolute pleasure, and we will be reconvening in a couple of weeks, mate.
Lovely.
Right, cheers, thanks for listening. We're going to go out with No Fall by Cat Lundy. Oh, and by the way, the intro music was Second to No One by the magnificent Jimmy Coburn. Thank you.
Cheers.